Hello, I'm Will Sampson. Welcome to the Woodworking Network podcast. Welcome to the Woodworking Network podcast, where we explore the business of woodworking and what it takes to succeed. I'm Will Sampson. This episode is sponsored by FDMC Magazine. Today, we'll be continuing our interview with Dustin Hunter of Hunter Trim and Cabinets in Fort Worth, Texas, talking about the amazing transformation of his shop through applying lean manufacturing principles. But first, let's talk about taking the time to save time. I am afflicted with a terrible disease, but it's not the coronavirus. It's the disease of improvement. Whenever I see a process or a setup for a process, if I can see a better way of doing it, I can't help myself. Of course, it is somebody else's process, and if I helpfully suggest, wouldn't it be better if you did it this way, the response is not always appreciated. People get comfortable doing things the way we've always done it. Processes that have gone on a long time are highly resistant to change. The sheer inertia of time adds credibility to the process that perhaps is not warranted. But most of all, people just don't like to take the time to change. Often my suggestions of change are met with a barrage of objections. That won't work. That's not practical. How could that possibly be more efficient? If we did that, we'd have to change this whole other process. That would cost too much money to set up. That would require special training or skills. And then there is my favorite. We are so busy, we don't have the time to try something different. You don't have time to figure out how to save time? Interesting. That's kind of like we're too busy to figure out how to do even more business. It is not unusual for businesses that first adopt lean manufacturing ideas to see 30% improvements in their operation just by cutting waste and organizing a bit. But you don't have time to be 30% more efficient, do you? Even the smallest of processes can benefit by taking time to think about them first. Are all the tools at hand and ready to work? Are the steps in the process as close together as is safe and practical? Are the materials the best choices for what we are trying to achieve? Do we have everything ready and at hand? And sometimes, once we get going in a process, we can't seem to stop to be more efficient. Too many times when I don't think things through, I find tools and miscellaneous items piling up in the work area as I rush from one process to the next. I created a rule that 2 tools have to be put away for every new tool brought to the work. Ironically, what is happening here is that we are classifying time to improve as wasted time. We are not seeing the value we can add by eliminating truly wasted time in production. Investing time to save more time is very hard to do or even understand, but it can transform your business. That leads right into our guest today, but before we get back to Dustin, let's pause for a word from our sponsor. FDMC Magazine is your vital source of information to improve your woodworking business. Whether it is keeping you apprised of the latest advances in manufacturing, helping you solve your wood technology problems with Gene Wenger, or inspiring you with case histories about successful businesses and best practices, FDMC Magazine is there to be the sharpest business tool in your shop. Learn more and subscribe for free at woodworkingnetwork.com/FDMC. Now let's talk some more with Dustin Hunter about his lean journey.
Now, a lot of people focus on lean manufacturing as affecting the production area, but they don't realize it also has applications in the office. What kind of changes did you make to your office to go lean?
Yeah, so it's also gotten an overhaul over the years. When we started lean, we really didn't have much of an engineering department to speak of. We've since added a couple engineers with the workload that we've taken on. So that just in and of itself created a whole nother system that we had to implement from the sales side to engineering and the accounting side. You know, we've implemented Lean in all these different areas because everything is a process. From the way you get out of bed every morning to how we run a machine, everything is a process and everything can be improved. So that's the way we approach everything. So everything on the sales side, everything on the engineering side, accounting side alike, everything is a process. And we want to standardize it and then improve it.
That's great. We talked a little bit about the production gains that you achieved. Can you talk about, besides just the cabinet boxes, I know you've made improvements in other facets of the business. Can you talk about some of those, you know, like something that was causing you a headache and you guys got your heads together and figured out a new way of doing it? And I bet you there were times where some of the folks doing it didn't believe some of this Lean thing was going to work, but it did.
Sure. Yeah, there's so many, but you know, an interesting one that I'll share briefly is in our door department. You know, we make brace panel and flat panel doors, a 5-piece door, cope and stick door. We make a miter door as well. And several years ago, we were batching those. So what we would do is we'd send a job out, or we'd cut a job into half, or, you know, maybe it was 30 doors, 50 doors, 100 doors, whatever the order may be. And we'd process it in a batch. And what I mean by that is we would rip all the material, and then we would mill all the material, and then we would, you know, put the door together, and then we would sand it. And each one of these things, we did all the doors. So we'd mill all the material. Then we would sand or assemble all the doors. So we had these big stacks of doors everywhere. And then we'd sand them, and then we would run an edge, and so on and so forth. And one of the projects that we worked on with Brad, and there's a YouTube video on this, I believe, from several years back, but we took that, and what we did was we started making doors one at a time. And we literally would rip just what we needed, cut just what we needed, assemble one door, send it through the sander, run an edge, and hinge it. And at the time, we had 3 guys in our door department, and we were doing 60 to 70 doors a day on a good day. And when we started doing doors one at a time, within just a couple weeks, we were doing 100 to 125 doors a day with 3 guys. So that throughput, you know, it was real. We now currently we usually staff that department with 2 guys, and they routinely do 100 plus doors a day, depending on the material and the complexity.
Now, I know a lot of people listening won't believe that because they
Yep.
think, oh, you know, you got to have batches to have production efficiency. But the best analogy I use is if you have a tall building and you got to get a bunch of people from the top floor to the bottom, and you've got one elevator that can take 10 people, and you got 100 people that you need to get down to the bottom floor. If you send 100 people down the stairs, and then you wait for that elevator to send them 10 at a time, the people going down the stairs will get down before the people get down in the elevator, waiting for that elevator to go back and forth, even though it's taking 10 at a time. And that's
Absolutely.
sort of what you're dealing with.
It's a great analogy. Yes. I couldn't agree more.
Now, you mentioned you bought some machinery, but this whole Lean thing, this wasn't a big, I bought, you know, a gazillion machines and that made us more efficient. It's more the things that you did with your people. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. Like I say, we didn't buy our first CNC till we've been doing Lean about 3 years. And really it was a volume. You know, we were just taking on work, and that was one of the reasons why we got the CNC for the precision. I still can't figure out how to build or cut cabinets one at a time and make it worth our while. So we're still batching that. We do break those batches down to really small batches. We'll say that. But that's really the only significant piece of equipment we've added over the years in doing this 7 or 8 years now. Everything else, I mean, we have replaced several things, but nothing big production wise, other than the CNC. But like I said, we were still cutting cabinets out for about 2 or 3 years on the early days. So yeah, it's not about machinery. It's about getting the people to see the waste, eliminating waste, continuous improvement. Until you turn that corner, I would advise people not to add any kind of machinery. Because when you do that, then you don't know, is it the machinery that's doing it, or is it our people, or is it the process?
Right. Well, I kind of want to talk about that, of the day-to-day of how it works. Now, you have a daily meeting to talk about Lean with your folks?
Yeah. So let me back up for just a second. So about 3 years into this, 3 to 4, somewhere in that range, what we found with our Lean journey was, especially, the first 6 months when Jim was involved, we were climbing very, very quickly. In the first year, we doubled in size with the same staff, just in sheer volume. So, but what we found is we would ramp up, and then we would just kind of level off, and it would kind of, I wouldn't say die down, but it would just kind of level off. And then we'd say, okay, we're struggling again here, there, lead times, whatever it may be. So we'd get back refocused, and we'd see an incline again, and then a level off again. So we did that for about 3 or 4 years. And then I got introduced to this crazy guy on the internet, Paul Akers.
Yeah.
He's a nut. So I got introduced to his book, 2 Second Lean. So if anybody is pondering the Lean journey, this is a great place to start. It's a very hands-on book, and it's a step-by-step. It's a great way to get started with Lean. It's what I advise people to do that don't know much about it, but it's a great book. So I read his book, and in there he talks about having a morning improvement time and a morning meeting. And that started for us about 4 years ago now. And we had another one of those moments where my staff thought I had just, drank too much that morning, when I come and said, hey, we're gonna improve. We're gonna make an improvement time. We're gonna have a morning meeting. And mind you, at the time we were having challenges with lead time again, just from volume of work coming in. We were doing more than we'd ever done, but we were taking on more as well. So we were having challenges with lead time. So my guys just thought I was crazy again. And I said, hey, what we're going to do is, for the first 45 minutes every day, we're going to fix the problems from the day before. And we're going to address some of these issues that we're having, and talk about things, and do some training and those kind of things. And then we're going to follow it up with a brief meeting, 15, 20 minutes. It's now about 30 minutes. And we're going to start working. And the crazy thing that happened was, within the first 30 days of doing that, we had already made back the production time that we lost in that hour. So before, we were working an 8-hour shift, and we cut that back to 7 hours now of production time, because we were having an hour of improvement in meeting. And within that first month, we were hitting the production numbers in a 7-hour day that we were in an 8-hour day, by taking the time and addressing some of the issues and problems that we had had from the day before. The defects, a machine that's not working properly, all kinds of things, and working with our staff.
Well, I think the great thing about a Lean meeting like that too is it's not, a bureaucratic meeting about somebody talking about rules and new ideas, and you guys are going to do this. It's a sort of a bottom-up meeting, talking about problems that the employees are facing, and how can we solve those problems, and then coming up with solutions, so that it also energizes the staff, because they're seeing real progress even in the meeting. It's not just, oh, I'm going to go to this stupid meeting, it's going to waste my time and lose an hour of my day. Not it at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we do, and Paul talks about this in his book, we have everybody run the meeting. So we have a board, and it has everybody's names, and we rotate every single day. And I'm in the pool, if you will. So I only run the meeting about once a month, because we rotate through our staff, and everybody's responsible to run the meeting. And everybody does generally pretty well with it. Every now and then we'll have kind of a dud, but for the most part, getting gets everybody involved.
That's great. Yeah. So you're devoting an hour a day to doing this, and it's the meeting and improvements, or is there a separate improvement time, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we have a 45-minute improvement time. We start our plant opens at 6, so from 6 to 6:45, we do improvements. And again, this could be a wide variety of things. It could be training somebody, it could be fixing a tool that wasn't working the day before, or something that came up that we didn't know how to do the day before. We address that with a team. So there's a wide variety of things that encompasses. And then at 6:45, we have a meeting. Usually takes anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. And then 7:15, we go to work. So technically our shop runs a 6.75 hours of production a day for an 8-hour shift.
But you're getting the same production values that you were getting or more than when you were running 8-hour shifts.
Yeah, well, at this point, we're getting more than we were back then, yes.
Yeah, that's great. For folks that don't know Paul Akers, he runs a company called Fastcap, and I also recommend the book 2 Second Lean because it is probably the most simple and straightforward introduction to lean manufacturing and the Toyota production system that you're going to find. And Paul is a wonderfully insane advocate for lean and very entertaining to watch. So do you do the video kinds of things that he encourages at Hunter Trim?
We do. So in our morning meeting, we rotate days. So every other day, whoever's running the meeting is responsible to bring a before and after either picture or video of whatever they've improved recently. And then we alternate it with some kind of lean video. And it could be a video from Paul. It could be anything on the internet. We leave it kind of open. But then what it does is it engages the staff to discuss whatever the topic is. And we let the presenter pick that. Paul, he does a lot of great things in this space. If you don't know who he is, I would definitely just Google or YouTube Paul Akers, and you will get literally thousands or tens of thousands of videos. I had the pleasure about 2 years ago going to Japan with Paul, which was one of the most eye-opening experiences I've ever had, and it was great.
Yeah, he's definitely a leading advocate for lean.
That's all we have time for today, but we will conclude our interview with Dustin Hunter in the next episode. You can find all of our podcasts at woodworkingnetwork.com/podcasts and in popular podcast channels. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks again to today's sponsor, FDMC Magazine. If you have a comment or topic you'd like us to explore, contact me at will.sampson@woodworkingnetwork.com. And we would really appreciate it if you fill out the survey at woodworkingnetwork.com/podcast-survey. Thanks for listening.